Let me tell you about the birds and the bees and the flowers and the trees and the moon up above and that thing called love. Shalom, 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 beloved angelic family and Gentiles. Today, we're going to talk a little bit of something about the moon. Normally, when people talk about the moon, it's always something, regarding its mechanical, or it doesn't really exist, or it's not up there. Even though the Gentiles in the Psalms 83 nations were shooting nuclear weapons, bombs at the moon, we don't talk about that. But today, we're going to find out a little something about the moon. And I can tell you this, people who have not done their shadow work, this may help you out a little bit because I saw the vid by Spiritual Light Passing Through, and I was glad to know that she was going to continue with the shadow work and that Sophia Spiritual Light does shadow work. Our family, our nation, we are a people who have been through a lot. And at this time, if you did not go in the spiritual hospital when Big Levi opened it up, there are issues and the moon. We're going to talk about that, and you may get an understanding of why some of those problems exist. So let's get it, family. Copyright disclaimer. Under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976, fair use is invoked for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. Fair use is permitted by copyright statute when an otherwise infringement may occur. Usages for nonprofit educational purposes tips the balance in favor of fair use. Family, before we get started, I want to explain a little bit about the importance of shadow work. Before I knew what shadow work was, or before I was awakened, something happened to me. Now, when um, I grew up in a church. I was in church since I was a child, went to a holiness church, but it never felt right for me. So my spirit, there were different things going on within my spirit. But I've always been the type of person that I didn't hold any punches. I never did. When I was in school and someone would come up and say something to me like, I heard you said this or you said that, I was always the type person, yeah, I said it, even if I didn't say it, because for me, it's like, let's get busy. We'll talk about this later and see what's the outcome. I've never been the person to use profanity. I may say damn, hell, or something like that, or pissed off, but who I am is who I am, and it's all been who I've always been in a lot of ways, except for my anger. I would fly off the handle at the drop of a dime, and I did not like nonsense. I never did. I was not ever the type of person that liked a lot of buffoonery. So, and when I was on that job, you know, I w- I went. It was in the military. The military, I went through a few years, but I didn't stay in because I didn't like the games that they wanted to play. I was just always the type person, even at a young age, I never really cared about money. I had a job because it was needed. And I was always that way. I don't care what the job was, how good the money was, or what have you. I just never put stock in a job that I loved or anything like that. I never got into it in that type of frame of mind. It was just something to do. And I was always like that, even when I went in the military. That my only thing was is to do the best I could. My mom taught us to always just do your best. Don't have to do anything. And I took that with me in everything I did. And so when I was in the military, it was just one of those things. I didn't like the coffee breaks and everybody wanted to do the smoke breaks and all this nonsense. I just want to do my work and go home, bam, that's it. Because it was just a job to me. When I got up and I got another job, I was always the exact same way. But what happened to me was on one of these back in 2006, I had a Caucasian boss and he was racist as hell. And one day I was getting ready to come across the desk and choke that man's, uh, yeah, put my hand right down his throat because I was always like that. I just didn't like no crap. And so I heard this voice in my head, don't do it. I was like, what? Don't do it. I was like, no, I'm getting ready to wear him out up in this building. Not today. I heard something say, not today. Yes, today. This is not the right time. Yes, this is the perfect time. I mean, I'm hearing these things in my head, and I had never heard this before. Usually it was like, I'm on top of this. We getting ready to get busy. And I was always like that. But then I had to walk away and I was mad at myself and I cried because I was so mad at myself because I wanted to wipe the floor with that man's body. And I had to go home and I thought about that thing and I cried because I was so mad. And that was when my transformation started. That was really when my awakening started, but I didn't know what it was because that wasn't the first time that that had happened to me after that. It happened multiple times after that. Don't say a word. I'm hearing this voice telling me don't say a word. I had never heard that before because I was always ready to get it. Let's get it and we'll talk about this later. I didn't care. But somebody was getting ready to get hurt, but that changed in me, and that was my shadow. That was my shadow work, and I didn't know it at the time, but the mighty one dealt with me in a mighty way because it was hard for me going from being this person where I always handled business. I didn't care who it was, to this person that I had to back down on some things. I didn't like that about me. I didn't like it at all. But it got so bad and I fought against it so much that my stomach would start hurting me and I would start bleeding on the inside. It was terrible. It was a terrible process for me because I fought it. And then, I went and got everything checked out and there was nothing wrong with me. And I finally realized, that it was a change, that was going on in me and it was hard. But it started in 2006, okay? And now I'm the person that I am today because of what was my shadow work and my awakening. My awakening really started in 2017. I think I started awakening in 2012, but for some reason I went back to sleep. But my awakening really began in 2017. That's when I had the dream about the book of Zohar and Zorah. So everything started changing, but it wasn't really easy for me. The only thing about me that changed was who I was on the inside and my reaction to things, the way I responded, because the way I respond today is not the way I responded back in the day. And that was because of the shadow work. And I'm saying to the nation that if you find yourself still in a place of responding and reacting to things the way that you always have, you've not done the shadow work. If you're still caught up in love, love, love everybody, you've not done the shadow work. If you're still caught up in promoting Gentile buffoonery, you've not done the shadow work. There's a lot that goes into this, and the biggest thing that from this that I can say, and I've read this in a lot of books, so I know it's key. These two words, know, or three words, know thyself. You must know thyself. period. And it's not this surface person, that you show everybody and then you do something later. My Gentile friends that I've had for years, and people that know me. And who I am today is a person that I've always been, except for some minor tweaks with the way that I handle things. But I've always been very outspoken, always been very, very honest about things. And so if you're still caught up in this religion thing and you're still fearful about things, it's because you haven't done the shadow work, and you must do the shadow work. And this video that I'm going to do today, I'm only going to do a portion of it because there's a lot to it, but it's about the moon. So let's get in it. So there are two types of angelics that use the moon to transmute negative ray forces of darkness. The angelic that handles the veil of ignorance, and the angelic that handles the veil of illusion. Now, I believe that this is the real Jacob's ladder. This is me. This is how I feel. This is what I believe. Because there are so many obstacles that Jacob has to overcome. So basically, this is Jacob's ladder for me. These are the only 7 steps, but there are sub steps to this ladder. You have the physical plane, the astral, mental, Buddhic, the atmic, the monadic, and the logic or divine. So today we're just going to stick with the physical, because there's a lot of information that goes into this. In the physical, there is a lot there are a lot of things that Jacob has had to deal with psychologically, emotionally, mentally, and physically. Now, the Gentiles in the Psalms 83 nations, they have done a fabulous job of keeping Jacob suppressed. It's not what they were supposed to do, but it's what they did. But the Mighty One allowed it to happen, and there were reasons. However, we may never really know the true reasons because there have been so many lies in between, of what happened, what really happened, and what the story has been given to us, his story, not the true story. So there are a lot of lies, manipulation, deception, and buffoonery in the middle. Therefore, we may never know the truth, not at this level. But we're finding out the truth, a lot of the truths about what they did, which is the reason, that they're trying to throw in these things, critical race theory, the burning books, snatching books out of schools, having town hall meetings, preventing the students from going to libraries and getting public library cards. All types of things are happening, that is not being put in the media. Okay, so we're going to stick with the physical, and we're going to learn some things about what really happened to us. But first, let's listen to this. I don't get into a lot of this scripture, because so many other people have done that, and they've done their precepts upon precepts and all this, but I will bring out a scripture when it's necessary. And this is one of those times it's necessary. So we're going to look at 2 Thessalonians 2, 7 through 12. For the mystery of iniquity doth already work. Only he who now letteth will let until he be taken out of the way. 8. And then shall that wicked be revealed, whom the Mighty One shall consume with the spirit of his mouth, and shall destroy with the brightness of his coming, even him whose coming is after the working of Satan with all power and signs and lying wonders, and with all deceivableness of unrighteousness in them that perish, because they received not the love of the truth, that they might be saved. And for this cause the mighty one shall send them strong delusion, that they should believe a lie. 12. That they all might be damned who believeth not the truth, but have pleasure in unrighteousness. And this has a lot to do with the reason, this script has a lot to do with the reason that our people can't wake up. It's already been established that the churches were the strong delusion, but I know it was for me, especially when I find out that everything that they told us to do was a thing not to do, was against script. And I've also realized that the sacred text was a history of a people, a strong people, a mighty people. And the Gentiles in Psalms 83 nation have used it to write their own script. So everything that they do is a script. They've worked it out years in advance. They have trickery and deception to show what they're doing, putting it in movies, because there's no truth in them. They're unable to speak it out of their mouth. And the problem is that our people continue to speak their lies that they call their truth. And every time our people do that, we give them power, because we keep repeating the buffoonery, the trickery, the lies and deceptiveness, all of that garbage that they put out in the news media, all of those lies that they put out to give themselves power. Our people continue to buy into that and to repeat it, to feed it, because what you're doing is you're feeding the lies, because you're unwilling to accept the truth. So you're feeding what they say, because the veil of ignorance, you're wearing it, but you don't realize it yet. So let's see what the problem is. Now, I've been trying to bring this message for about 2 weeks, but I couldn't, because I kept feeling as though something was missing. And I couldn't put my finger on it, and I kept meditating about it, praying about it, thinking about it. But I knew something was missing, because there were so many pieces, and I couldn't put it all together because I was missing one piece. And it's like that on a lot of my videos. I'm always waiting for one piece of information. It's already in a book, or I've ordered a book and it's just coming, or something just really weird like that. But I had this book, and I on the shelf, and I picked it up and I looked in it, and it had exactly what I needed. Look at this picture. Curtain of Maya, delusion, and the moon. There's a lot more to it, but I'm not going to bring it. I'm not going to put out the book just yet, because there's a lot of information in here that the nation is just not ready for, and it's not time for it to come out. But look at the earth and what part of it is in the veil. You have the moon there, and then you have North America and South America. That's under the veil, the curtain. The veil is a curtain of Maya, or illusion. Why not the entire world? Because, see, think about it. The entire world knows who we are. A lot of our people still don't know who we are. The other nations, they know. There's not been a veil over their eyes, not this type of veil. but there's a veil. The other nations, I've been learning recently that when the people get ready to come over here, they go to these naturalizations meetings and stuff, and the Gentiles in Psalms 83 nations tell about how terrible our people are. We steal, we do these things, we commit murder and all this type of nonsense. So when they come here, they come with the veil over their eyes. They come into the veil that's already here, because they're told lies. They're fed a whole bunch of lies and nonsense before they even get here. So the veil is up over this land. Let's find out what that means. So the first veil that we're going to deal with is the veil of illusion, Maya, okay? Then we're going to deal with the veil of ignorance, because when you're talking about the veil of ignorance, you're going into the Zohar, because there's the moon with the veil of ignorance. It represses the light. Okay, so when you're talking about this subject, it's all about the Zohar, and I realized that was the reason I had that dream, and it was the first thing that I was given during my awakening as far as the dream, is because that is the repression of light. So we're going to do that at another time, but right now we're going to examine the veil of darkness that deals with illusion. Okay, the maker of illusions. So let's look at this one book that I have. Where's that book? Okay, this book is The Moon Veils Vulcan and the Sun Veils Neptune by Kurt Abraham. Okay, and in this book, it says there are 3 initiations in the system of esoteric psychology and developmental stages of soul unfoldment that are related to the following factors. The first initiation is overcoming Maya, which is the physical control. The second initiation is overcoming glamour, which is emotional control. And the third initiation is overcoming illusion, which is mental control. So the 3 initiations are related to the transmutation of energy from the lower centers, spheres or chakras, to the higher centers, the sacral center to throat center, the solar plexus to the heart, and base of the spine to the head center. Okay, so you have to transmute those energies. And this is not something that's really easy. You're looking at the physical, the emotional, which is psychological, the mental. These areas, again, I will say that this is Jacob's ladder, because this is something very difficult to overcome, because you have to overcome what the mighty one put in place to happen, and deal with the people who actually did it but went overboard because of their ignorance. Okay, so there's a lot to deal with in this. So let's examine those types of veils. So generally speaking, the most influential veils normally pertain to the 3 dimensions of the personality: mental, emotional, and physical. There are blinding veils that arise through each of these domains of perception. Essentially, each personality vehicle creates a unique type of veil, and it is these that much of the work of discipleship must address. The physical veils, the veils of the physical body. The veils related to the physical aspect of life have much to do with the disciples' relationship to the unregulated appetites of the physical body, as well as a tendency to overemphasize the importance of one's physical appearance, namely vanity. These veils also relate to the influence of outside forces that unduly shape behavior in ways that are contrary to the deeper call of the soul. This is where we're trying to get to, because at some point in the nation, our people should be able to use astrology and create horoscopes of the soul. See, Gentiles made everything about the personality, but this astrological information goes much deeper than that. You can't throw out astrology because it plays such a big part in the 12 tribes. It just doesn't go away. Everyone is not a star seed. They're earth seeds here. Or you have a lot of star seeds that aren't light bearers. Okay? So you can't just assume that everybody is the same thing. It doesn't work that way. This is what a problem is. And this, again, we're talking about veils. When you put a veil over your eyes, thinking that you know everything and you have all the knowledge and you have these books and you're this and you're that, this is another illusion. This is a part of Maya, the illusion, the strong delusion, the vanity. All of these things are a part of this. The veils of the emotional body. The veils associated with the emotional body often result in a distortion of truth. Because of these veils, the emotional body tends to subtly or not so subtly exaggerate one's perception of reality. I'm the last prophet. See? As the old adage states, emotions can make a mountain out of a molehill. Because the emotional body is a vehicle of the personality that generates desire, this type of veil can also create confusion between want and need. When such is the case, the wants of the personality are then wrongly interpreted as actual needs. There's a lot going on here, and this is why shadow work is so important, because you have to take a lot of the emotion out of what happened and start looking at things from different lens. It's difficult, and it doesn't happen overnight. It really doesn't. Veils of the mental body. The veils within the mental body create an over-reliance on logic. In such cases, the analytical role of the reasoning mind, which is inherently good, is devoid of soulful intuition. When this occurs, the analytical mind dominates. This is why these people said, trust the science, believe this, believe that. No, 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 no. That's all mental. This is all on a physical personality level. It has nothing to do with the soul. When this occurs, the analytical mind dominates. Due to this category of veils, the separative tendencies of the mind are accented and the lower ego becomes unduly emphasized. So there's a lot going on with these veils. I mean, if you're not doing shadow work every day, because shadow work doesn't stop, I still do shadow work. It doesn't stop. You have to check yourself, your personality, physical body, emotional body, and the mental body. All of this is about the personality, the dimensions of the personality. And this is why astrologically the signs are so important, because as you transmute, you go through one sign or another sign, and there's a positive role and there's a negative role, and these energies are coming from the moon. I talked about this before in other videos, but I'm going to review it for this to put the moon in it now that I know that the moon is at play, because before I didn't know how the moon came into play. I knew that in the cosmos, everything has a frequency, everything. And all of that energy that comes from the galactic sun is transmuted or transformed and goes through the planets, goes through, comes to Earth, goes through the sun, the sun here, the galactic sun, go, all of that energy goes through and moves in one way or another until it hits the body. But this is what actually happens. The great bear, or the seven head centers in the body of the one about whom naught may be said, and we're going to go over that script. The seven planets of the seven spirits before the throne. So the path of the energy comes from the infinite, from the creator, from that galactic sun, and it moves through the cosmos, divided by the planets, and directed into men through the spheres or the chakras. Okay, so we went through that. Then man's actions and heartbeat sends the energy through the sun and causes its elimination and back again to the cosmos, to the creator. So the creator knows exactly what's going on based on the energy that comes through the ley lines. And it goes through and it's transmuted through the moon. See, the moon has rays too, but that's not talked about. And that's what was throwing me, because I didn't know that the moon had rays, and I had been researching and reading about these rays all along, and I couldn't find that information. However, I did find it in another book. So the book I found it in was Ley Lines and Earth Energies: The Rediscovery of a Lost Wisdom by Kenneth John Parsons. And when I tell you that the Gentiles in the Psalms 83 nations put our information in all of their books, they really did. I mean, they broke up this information, distributed to each nation, and they wrote these books, and then everybody else came along later and wrote books off of their research and doctorals and all of this information, and created all of these books. So everybody had bits and pieces of the information. The Egyptians knew how this worked, and how about the rays, so because it was happening there, these are our people. But I found this information in this book, and I was very surprised. It can only be the Mighty One, because I haven't picked up this book in a while. I think it was Big Judah that did that provided some information from this book, and it's been a while ago. So I looked at this book, and that's when I first discovered that there were lunar rays. The book didn't talk a lot about it, but it was the simple fact that it opened the door, to provide the information, so to help me put together everything that was going on with the rays and how it fit. So Gaia produces her own animating life force imperative for everything. Gaia is the earth, from flora to the highest life forms. It is produced by the unification in Earth's atmosphere of solar magnetic forces along with lunar rays, combining with favorable geomagnetic energies emanating from within. How about that? Lunar rays. Lunar rays. The lunar rays are what causes the veils upon the eyes, the veils of ignorance, veils of Maya, illusion, Maya and illusion. How about that? We have lunar rays. Man, I tell you, Gentiles really, they hid our book, they hid our information very well. They hid our information very well. So now I'm researching, trying to do more information about the lunar rays. I ordered another book, and I'm hoping that that book will have information regarding what I'm looking for. So I found this information in a book I just ordered. So hopefully there's more information in there about the lunar rays. So Paracelsus writes, as the sun worketh in the planet, so does the heart in the body and the moon in the brain. How about that? As the sun worketh in the planet, so does the heart in the body and the moon in the brain. The mystic marriage is alchemically described as a uniting of the sun and moon. Can't throw away the moon. When complete regeneration is accomplished, a stream or nerve current of light will flow along the pneumogastric, the vagus nerve, coordinating the powers of head and heart. This is the mystic highway traversed so often by Mary and Joseph between Bethlehem and Jerusalem. All the principal events in the Bible are also found within the body of man. There you go. So, Gentiles in Psalms 83 nations tried to bomb, nuclear, detonate explosives on the moon. Why? Because the moon and the sun work together. They actually work together. This is the first time I've seen this information, and I thought, wow, this is fabulous. Knowing this and how it's put together, regarding the mystic marriage is alchemically described as a uniting of the sun and the moon. How about that? And just think, Gentiles in Psalms 83 nations wanted to destroy the moon, shooting nuclear weapons at the moon. Who does that? That's a rhetorical question, okay? We know who does that. So let's look at the definition of Maya. Maya means illusion. Maya means that which is temporary, that which is not the truth. Maya simply means appearance. It appears to be true. Like the sunset is Maya because it only appears to be setting. In reality, it is not setting. So sunset is Maya. Maya originally denoted the magic power with which a god can make human beings believe in what turns out to be an illusion. So, what they're talking about gods, they're really talking about the angelics of darkness. I don't throw around that word God and Lord so much now because after realizing that the Gentiles think in Psalms 83 nations think they're gods and they gave themselves titles as lords, I kind of moved away from that because it seems to magnify them because of the egos. So I kind of moved away from having anything. I give them nothing, no, nothing really. I don't. By extension, it later came to mean the powerful force that creates the cosmic illusion that the phenomenal world is real. So, all of this has to do with the cosmos. Okay, everything that's happening, go back and look at that picture, the illusion, everything surrounding Turtle Island, North America, South America, the illusion, the Maya is here. Okay. So this is happening is in the cosmos. This has to do with the rays of light and the lunar rays. How about that? We're talking about lunar rays now. This is awesome. This is all about the energy coming from the cosmos, okay? Which is surrounding the planet and functions through out the cosmos and works its way to the earth and back up to the cosmos again. There's vibration. Everything is alive. There's vibrations in everything. Okay. So all of those people that are out there saying that the moon is a robot and all this type of nonsense, I don't know. That's not what it is. See, when we get to repeating Gentile buffoonery, the only thing we do is we give it new life. That's all we do. We just give it life, energy. So Isaiah 30:26 says, moreover, the light of the moon shall be as a light of the sun, and the light of the sun shall be sevenfold, as a light of 7 days, in the day that the mighty one bindeth up the breach of his people and healeth the stroke of their wound. So the moon is going to be, so more of the light of the moon shall be as a light of the sun. So the light is the ray. So the ray of the moon is going to be the same as the ray of the sun. They're going to do the same thing. And it's going to be set, and the light of the sun shall be sevenfold. So then, doesn't that mean that the ray of the moon is going to be sevenfold as well as the light of the 7 days? In the day that the mighty one binded up the breach of his people and healed the stroke of their wound? Yeah, we got a lot of people walking around here in darkness right now. Luke 21:25, and there shall be signs in the sun and in the moon and in the stars, and upon the earth distress of nations with perplexity, the sea and the waves roaring. I mean, this is happening now. This is not like something that happened in the past. It probably did, or it's going to happen in the future. It may, but right now we know it's happening now. There are signs in the sun. There are a lot of CMEs, right? And the moon. Okay, there are a lot of signs there. The waning, the waxing, everything that's going on. The moon flipping over. The different colors of light that it's emitting at night. There's a lot going on that the Gentiles and Psalms 83 nations are trying to cover up, but it's still happening and people are still seeing. And then Joel 2:31 says, the sun shall be turned into darkness and the moon into blood before the great and the terrible day of the mighty one come. So, I mean, there are a lot of things, signs, scriptures from the sacred text that talk about the moon. It's not some mechanical things that were brought in for some other planet and put up there by, these monsters that's on the planet. No. I know that the scripts have been changed a lot, but I realize that the Gentiles have been using them, to script out their own lives, because I don't know, it's something they needed to do because they didn't have a life before. I don't know. Why would you use a book to script out a world, your life? I don't know. Only they can answer that question. Okay, I'm going to go back into the first book I was reading from, Supernal Light, a compendium of esoteric thought, William A. Meader. So if you can get this book, get it. I mean, it's a really good book. It explains a lot of information. I'm going to go over some more stuff from here um, about other illusions and things, about the zodiac. So we're gonna look at that, but we're gonna finish this up, and I'm really gonna look at the veils of illusion here from this book. So, having highlighted a variety of ideas and principles related to the dark night of the soul, we didn't go into that, but that has to do with this: the dark night of the soul, the personality, the dark night of the personality, and the dark night of the soul. And so it's trying to get to your higher self, your monad, and everything that you have to get through. And it's one of those planes that you have to go on, that you get through when you're climbing Jacob's ladder. Okay, but a discussion about the veils of illusion will serve as an important addition to our subject. We have been given to understand that within the realms of consciousness, realms of awareness, there are a wide variety of veils that prevent a human being from seeing reality as it truly is. These psychological veils represent perceptual distortions and are unseen obstacles to spiritual progress. Okay, this is what prevents our people from moving forward. This is the reason they get stuck in one place, because thinking that we have it all, because there's a veil that's put there, and that veil is there for a reason, because it has a lot to do with the ego. Yeah, we have to have some thing that resembles an ego, but not to the point that it distorts your perception. Okay, and that's what the problem is. It is not an overstatement to say that the spiritual journey is centered on the recognition and penetration of veils. Veils conceal, they're curtains. The Zohar calls them curtains, okay? They conceal. They perpetuate a type of blinded existence. Because of them, the deeper aspects of creation cannot be clearly perceived. They obscure one's vision and must be lifted in order that true comprehension of reality and the mighty one can occur. Importantly, all people are immersed in various veils of illusion. It's not just one person, it's everybody, which is the reason that we constantly have to work on the shadow. Importantly, all people are immersed in various veils of illusion. Only a master of wisdom, free from the limitations of form and karma, is able to fully see through all the deceptive veils that enshroud human consciousness. This is a statement of humbling fact. Nonetheless, spiritual development is based upon one's growing capacity to lift veil after veil in order to eventually find freedom and enlightenment. Okay, I mean, this speaks for itself. You have to be willing to do the work. And fighting with those who are trying to help you doesn't get it. Our people should not have to come to you and hold your hand and laugh at you and stroke your ego in order to help you and tell you pretty nicey things. No, you have to be willing to hear the truth. That's one veil that has to be removed. The unwillingness, the inability to hear the truth. That's another veil. It's the onion. You got to unravel that onion to the core till you get to the soul. An understanding of the veils of illusion is a first step toward their lifting. The challenge that people face is that the veils, by their very nature, are not recognized for what they are. In truth, A veil's existence is maintained by this. If we knew that our perceptions of reality were largely incorrect, we would tend to be vigilant toward detecting our waywardness. The veils of illusion are not perceptual distortions that appear at particular times or in specific circumstances. Quite the contrary. They are ever present and condition our thoughts, feelings, and physical actions every moment of the day. Herein lies the problem of their detection. For if they are always shaping our perceptions, then there is no experience in normal everyday consciousness that will provide the contrast needed to expose them. Okay? Every perceptual experience, therefore, has a measure of subtle distortion built into it, and one stage of spiritual development is based upon this measure. Admittedly, this is a difficult notion for people to accept. In other words, the nature of spiritual growth demands that layer after layer of distorted perception veils be lifted from one's eyes, and the type of veils lifted defines where one stands on the path of evolution. Just as the steps to enlightenment are incremental, so too are the nature of the veils lifted at each stage. This is not something that happens overnight. This is very deep, and you have to be willing to move through these veils through truth, through the spirit of truth. Your path has to be guided and directed by your willingness to lift these veils. It must, in order to get to spirituality. This is the reason that some of us have not moved, is because we can't lift the veils, because we can't see them. They're on like glasses, and there are mirrors, and they're pointing back at us, and we look in that mirror and we say, "You look good today." No, you're off path. You're so far off path and your path is so distorted that you don't even realize it. There are several categories of veils relevant to the human experience. Some are related to distortions of thought, whilst others correlate to emotional phenomena. There are always a variety of veils that influence consciousness as it pertains to our physical activity and our outer circumstance. To the disciple who consciously yearns to live an authentic spiritual life, all of these types of veils need to be addressed. From the soul's perspective, however, one of them would be the dominant category to be inwardly realized and overcome in any particular incarnation. More will be said about this later. So you have to be willing. I mean, to get to the soul of the matter, you have to go through these veils. I mean, it's imperative. So let's look at occult blindness and the veils. So hidden blindness and the veils. As we have been discussing, the entire path is one that involves measures of blindness followed by the emergence of revelatory light. In the early stages of human evolution, spiritual blindness is natural and unavoidable. When such is the case, the soul has not yet consciously been realized. All that is known is based upon the perceptions of the personality without any intuitive contribution coming from or through the causal body. In other words, until the light of the soul is consciously sensed, human beings walk in blindness. They are completely and unequivocally immersed in the veils of illusion. Do you get that? Until the light of the soul is consciously sensed, human beings walk in blindness. They are completely and unequivocally immersed in the veils of illusion. So if you're still conducting yourself the same way you always have, if you're still responding, reacting, and doing the things that you've always done, you are still walking in darkness, blindness, illusion, Maya, because your soul has not become consciously aware. You've not become consciously aware of your soul. You're still the same person you've always been. You've created an illusion and a lie to yourself. You can fool some of the people some of the time, but you can't fool all the people all the time. When the awakening to the soul occurs, however, it indicates that one of the veils separating it from the personality has been lifted. Unexpectedly, a type of inner sightedness thus emerges. The spiritual dimension of one's identity becomes consciously realized for the first time, and the blindness to the soul's existence comes to an end. Yet this does not mean that spiritual blindness is completely eliminated, for there are many veils that prevent the aspirant from seeing the real from the unreal. Nonetheless, when this awakening occurs due to the lifting of a veil, the light of the soul is sensed. A committed desire to see deeper into the hidden dimensions of consciousness likewise takes root and grows. The aspirant begins to inwardly strive, taking his own evolution in tow. This marks the beginning of the probationary path, and from that point forward, life will never be the same. See, until you tap into the soul, until you start lifting these veils, if you're still out there talking about the same old buffoonery you've always talked about, if you have not grown at all, and you're still going by Gentile buffoonery, you've not come in contact with one of those veils yet. When you start lifting these veils, you become a different person, a new creature. Your knowledge, the realms of knowledge start opening. Until that time, you're the same person. The only person you're fooling is self, because you're not on the path. You're still on that probationary path. You've not made one step forward. None, because there's no drive in you. There's nothing to strive for. You're not striving for anything. You're not trying to lift any veils of truth, because you have to be willing to unlift those veils of truth. You got to be willing to lift those veils of deception to get to the core, to the truth. If you've not done that, you've not done any shadow work. You've not done any shadow work. And a lot of us cannot do the shadow work on our own. I didn't do it on my own. I was forced to do shadow work, because anytime I got upset about anything, my stomach started hurting. I was in pain. And I have a very low tolerance for pain. Very, very, very low. I was forced into it. And if you're not being guided in this walk, and you're walking on your own set path because you think that you've arrived, there's a veil. There's a veil. It should be noted that the blindness which the disciple faces is twofold. For the veils that prevent us from seeing the real are both a limitation and a type of protection. This is why some of our people never wake up. This is the reason. We keep saying, if you're still stuck in these books, blah 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 blah. If you're not doing this, blah blah. This is the reason right here. This is the reason. It should be noted that the blindness which the disciple faces is twofold. For the veils that prevent us from seeing the real are both a limitation and a type of protection. They are a limitation in that a veil hides the deeper truth of one's beingness. However, when a veil is lifted, it naturally invokes the spiritual energies that lie beyond it. In this regard, blindness can also be understood as a protection for the unready. To lift a veil requires that we simultaneously purify an aspect of the personality in order to rightly handle the influx of energy that will occur when the veil is lifted. I know about these veils being lifted because there was a time when I wanted to stop. I did, because the truth was so hard for me. It was painful. I cried a lot, a lot, a lot. The veils of illusion therefore serve as the protection from spiritual energies that the personality is not yet equipped to handle. This should ever be kept in mind. Joyous is the day when spiritual blindness comes to an end and all the veils of illusion have been lifted. In the nomenclature of esotericism, the sum total of all the veils is called the Great Illusion. The Great Delusion. It is equivalent to the notion of Maya as taught within the Hindu tradition. When the Great Illusion is eventually overcome, all of the separating veils have been lifted and the temple of the angelic, the spirit matter, soul, and personality is rent in twain from the top to the bottom, as was conveyed in the New Testament. This marks a triumphant movement in the journey of human evolution. Freedom from the imprisoning influence of the great illusion is achieved through the liberating effects of the higher initiations. Enlightenment is then due reward, and a master of wisdom is thus born. You hear that? You can't be a master of wisdom until you come through all these veils of illusion. And there are many, and we all have different veils. We all have different veils. Let's look at Matthew 27:51, since this talks about that script. And behold, the veil of the temple was rent in twain from top to the bottom, and the earth did quake, and the rocks rent, and the graves were opened, and many bodies of the saints which slept arose, and came out of the graves after his resurrection, and went into the holy city, and appeared unto many. That the veil of the temple, that's the veil of the body, the veil of the body. Once that happens and those spheres in the bodies, those chakras start shaking and renting and things start moving. Oh, praises to the mighty one. This is a lot, and it requires a lot to be able to go through this shadow work that it takes to go through this and clear up these veils. There are plenty of them. Like I said, we all have different ones because we've all been through different things. And like I said, I wanted to give up. I wanted to stop because it was painful. There was a lot going on there. I mean, it's a lot. And I cried and I cried and I cried and I cried. But you have to be willing to do that. But I needed the truth. I wanted the truth. And I was going to do everything that I had to in order to get it. And that's what it takes. So I wanted to leave you something about the desire world, about the world we live in. The desire world is a home of innumerable beings who operate in diverse, subtle ways to influence man by means of his desires and emotions. Okay, their activities are sensed, but their presence is unperceived by the vast majority of people. To the activities of these denizens of that realm, man owes his inestimable opportunity for growth through experience, by which he is building increasing moral strength and beauty and achieving mental vivification. For in our present stage of development, the average man's mind is but dimly awakened. Dimly awakened. Some of us are awakened, but dimly awakened because we haven't done the shadow work. The principal element of the desire world is soul light, the chief function of which is transmutation, metamorphosis. It is readily amenable to the power of thought, but the archangel's hierarchy of Capricorn and the angels, a hierarchy of Aquarius, are active in the higher heavenly region of this world, whereas the Lucifers have charge of the lower purgatorial levels. The Lucifers' activities, however, are not confined to these levels, but are now extending into the heaven realms as well. How the two divisions of the desire world, the higher planes where the force of attraction holds sway, and the lower where the force of repulsion is dominant, are related to human experiences and the manner in which they operate are the subject of this lesson. Man is a free agent. He can revel in unbridled passion, low desire. He can elect to live, as do the majority, by drawing to himself disproportionate amounts of both high and low desire substance. He can follow the spiritual path, as do true aspirants, and thereby lay hold of transmuting, transforming powers having their source in the higher planes of the desire world. We need the higher planes. Fountain of life, the fountain of youth we can find. All praises to the mighty one, the desire world. We want to be on the higher planes. Okay, we're going to go over all of those planes. You know, right now I just wanted to go through the seventh one, the lower one, the physical plane, but we'll go through all of those planes. But all praises to the mighty one. Much love and respect to the divine Ruach, and gratitude to the Mashiach. Shalom, beloved angelic family. Shalom, shalom, Gentile.